Welcome to episode 7 of Bleach Revisited, in which we will be reading through, analyzing, and talking about the foreshadowing in chapter 7 of the Bleach manga. So, if this is your first time reading through, or if you're coming back and revisiting like me, feel free to sit on in, get ready, and follow along. If a reread is less your thing and you're more interested in just the analysis or how this connects to the manga as a whole, feel free to click ahead to those parts of the videos. Check out the timestamps in the description. But without further ado, here goes the reading of the chapter. Chapter 7, The Pink-Cheeked Parakeet. A cursed parakeet? Uh-huh. All of his owners had terrible luck and died. But he always ends up with someone else. What? And it ended up with you? Yeah, I'm really scared now. Want him, Shigio? Do I look stupid to you, dork? How about you, Chad? Isn't he cute? Yeah, Chad likes cute things. Holy! Chad? He caught it on his back? You okay, Chad? Unbelievable. Yeah, I'm fine. Fine? You're bleeding, bro! Thanks for saving me. My name is Yuichi Shibata. What's yours? What the heck? Dude, it's like he's really talking. Like a person. Yasutora Chad. Whoa, Chad's interested now. I'm 15. Still. The Extraordinary Horror Show. All Night, 1998. It's very dangerous. Arfield, Kurosaki family only, beyond this point. Bleach, Chapter 7, The Pink-Cheeked Parakeet. Dude, there's not even a trace of that burn left. Surprised? Well, I did have the best grades in my Keto class. Healing that wound was easy. Grades? What, like at Reaper School? Something like that. By the way, Ichigo, how do I drink this? Huh? You just poke the straw in it. Straw? Hey! Together again. You must be in love or something. Mizuro. This is a straw? Moron. Does this look like love to you? I don't know. Anyway, deny it all you want. People are gonna talk, though. Clueless. Whatever. If I cared what people thought, I would dyed my hair black a long time ago. I guess so. I poke it where? Hey, Rukia! Hello, Mizuro? Cha-ching! You remembered my name, and we weren't even introduced. Mizuro Kojima, 15 years old, enchanted. My hobby is picking up chicks. What? No, not that. Watch out, Rukia. He looks like a dork, but he's a real player. Stop, you're ruining my rep. Anyway, I only go for older women. I'm harmless to girls my age. Like I said, watch out. 15 years old. Huh? 15 years old. So much older. Forget it. What's up? Mind if I join you guys? Oh, hey, Keigo. Chad's not here? No, I haven't seen him. Weird. Where could he be? Whoa! Is that the beautiful new girl I see? What brings you here? Ichigo picked her up and brought her here. What? Shut up. Ichigo did. Good job. Sure, don't get emotional. Hello? Greetings, I'm Keigo Asano. Welcome to this garden of manliness. Wow, this is like a party. Yeah, juice, milk, yakisoba, bread party. Shut up. I just wanna... Isn't this straw too short? Drink this juice stuff. Ugh. Oh man, what the... Hey, Kurosaki. Hoshima, you're off suspension? I ain't talking to you. Kurosaki, when you gonna dye that carrot piss hair black? why you always trying to look like me? Like I keep telling you, this is my natural color. I don't look anything like you. Now fly away, drag queen, before you tick me off. Drag queen? Why you? Drag queen? Whoa, 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 no fighting. Okay, guys? Beat it, Asano. I gotta kill that. Let him live, Oshima. Everybody knows you're tough. Nobody can whip you. Except me. I'll stomp that pump next week. You! Ichigo, shut up! I'm trying to save your life. Huh. I knew I'd have to set you straight someday. Today's the day. Let's go, Dingleberry. Let's see who's stronger. But brass knuckles. Wait, Oshima, don't get yourself. Did he just say the stronger? The stronger? Somebody's gotta make fun of that. That's so wrong. Haha, it's too late to apologize. Now? Oof! Ah! Oshima, I warned you about that crap. Chad. Hmm. Take it easy. You could have killed him. But thanks. Hmm. Hey, how do you hurt your hand? Yesterday it was my back. An I-beam fell on me. An I-beam? And today I hurt my hand grocery shopping. I ran into a motorcycle. You gotta be more careful, dude. Well, the guy driving it got hurt real bad, so I carried him to the hospital. So that's why you were late. Jeez, you must be made of steel. Like a tank. Huh? You got a bird? A parakeet? Hello, my name is Yuichi Shibata. What's your name? Wow, awesome. He talks really good. My name's Keigo Asano. Can you say Keigo? Chad. My nickname is Ewan McGregor. That's a good one. Do I have to laugh? Chad, where did you get that parakeet? Yesterday. A guy gave it to me. Hey, tell us the whole story. Don't be lazy. Bad habit. Spill it. Tell us everything. That was the whole story. No way. Don't worry. There's something in that bird, but it's harmless. Probably just a lonely soul. Still, if we leave it, it'll eventually become a hollow. We should perform Kanso tonight. Great. Another night without sleep. Stop complaining. Okay. He was worried for the safety of others as soon as he felt that soul's presence. Maybe he's beginning to understand what it means to be a soul reaper. Move it! Move, Ichigo! What's wrong, Yuzu? Where's the fire? Do or die, Kurosaki motto of the day. Out of the way! What's going on? An accident! A big car wreck at the intersection. Car wreck? What? I told you, 4 cars! You can't take that many? Well, they gotta go somewhere. We can't treat all of them here. Listen, tell your boss it's a request from Kurosaki. He'll find me some free beds real quick. Do it. Damn it, stupid flunkies. Dad, anything I could do? No. Assume the fetal position and stay out of the way. Useless. Eh. Whoa, we got a big one here. Ichigo, give me a hand with this giant. Oh, okay. Chad? Strawberry? Whoa, what a horrible wound. This feeling. Eh, this is bad. Looks like a burn, and it's still bleeding. You're going to have to take it easy. I'm fine now. You're nuts. I'll decide who's fine around here. Hey, what'd I tell you? Yuzu, Karen, get a bed ready. Come on, time to go Betty bye. Uh, do you feel it? Of course. I felt it all the way in there. I sensed no evil in the parakeet, but his wound reeks of a hollow. To be continued in Volume 2. That's it for Chapter 7, the Pink Cheek Parakeet. This chapter we got to meet Chad and get a little bit, got to know some of Ichigo's friends a little bit better. A little bit more insight there. So that's cool. Start of another character-centric arc, which focuses now on Chad. So we had a little arc for Orihime, and now we're going to get a little arc establishing Chad as a character and more about what he's about. But let's get into the analysis for this chapter. And as always, I'll be looking at both the visuals as well as the narrative, talking a little bit about what's going on in each. So I like that immediately the chapter open has the parakeet pictured along with the title and everything. It's a strange. I think it's such a strong juxtaposition to the content that we've been getting so far from Bleach. So with a lot of the chapter titles that we've had so far, they've been kind of nebulous, kind of like not directly referencing any specific things. I mean, like head hit a, that obviously you got to hit the hollows in the head, but some of the other ones not so much. So it would be easy to read something like Peak Cheek Parakeet and be like, what is this? Is probably Kubo writing something weird again. But here we immediately get visual to confirm, no, this is literally about a parakeet, the cursed parakeet. So like, I like that it gets underway immediately with like the central kind of curiosity of what's happening, and that's sort of what happened in the Orihime arc structurally as well. That she also had like this car crash encounter, and then that had a lot of like a suspicious wound. There was something supernatural going on. So already we have this structure being paralleled between these two stories. Um, One thing that Bleach gets a lot of flack for is that it will repeat certain story structures, but plug in different characters in a different amalgamation. And so this happens in two of the major arcs specifically later, that a lot of people will often complain about. But like, I think that's a really petty complaint to have, that like there's a similar structure between two arcs. Like, yeah, you could do something incredibly dynamic. I mean, look to no further than Hunter x Hunter, or Hunter Cross Hunter, or Hunter X Hunter, or Hunter slash Hunter, whatever way you want to pronounce that. I don't care. Hunter x Hunter. If you look over to that manga, it's like almost every arc is so structurally different, that it could almost entirely be a different manga at times. Like there's some obviously characters shared between them, but even the main cast fluctuates so heavily, and the dynamics of everything that's happening, as well as like the tone. So much is different between arc to arc of that. Whereas I think Bleach stays pretty thematically consistent. It stays, its tone for the most part stays pretty consistent as well. I feel like there's maybe more humor in early Bleach, but the idea of reusing structures, I don't think, is inherently a negative one. I think if you fail to do anything interesting with that reuse of structures, that's important. But I will ride or die for Kubo's use of these narrative structures to do interesting things. And I always feel like whenever he's using these structures that you're already familiar with, it is explicitly for the purpose of doing something new and interesting with that structure, while relying on that familiarity to get you into the story immediately. So now that we're already familiar with, okay, there's this weird thing, this cursed parakeet, right? And later in the chapter we know that Chad gets like a mysterious wound. we're already keyed in on like, okay, there's hollows involved. There's going to be some sort of conflict happening. Chad's obviously the victim. He's being targeted for some reason. It's probably tied to this parakeet. Obviously, like there's a lot of things that we can derive because of the Orihime chapter. But then we have other questions like, is it somebody that was like, close to Chad, or what does this parakeet have to factor into that, right? And through this arc, we'll see the ways in which this clearly differentiates, despite sharing that same initial structure. I think, again, the purpose is to lead us into something, to start with something familiar and then build from that in a meaningful and interesting way. So that way we don't have to spend as much time in the beginning setting things up. We can kind of more immediately jump into that other more interesting kind of narrative beat without spending so much time maybe on setup, because we're working in the realm of the familiar. So I think that repetition of structure again works well. It's effective here for sure, I feel, um, throughout this first bit. But anyway, I also like that here we're introduced to a bunch of characters that we haven't seen yet. So for the first few pages, we've got these other guys, Chad, assumably two friends of his own, Shigio, and I'm trying to remember what this other guy's name is, but it's not coming to me. But yeah, you know, basically they've got this parakeet. Maybe he's cursed. Maybe he ends up, people that are around the parakeet end up dying, but he ends up with somebody else. So that's curious, right? And then immediately, speaking of dying, this beam falls, and we get a hint that Chad is not maybe all that he seems. Is he's able to survive this beam falling on him from above, which would certainly kill any other teenager around his age, right? But Chad's a big guy; he can shrug it off, Um, yeah, he's fine, even though he's like bleeding. So you get the sense that like maybe Chad's been in some of these like really dangerous situations before. Um, I also like that. Yeah, this. I think this reads pretty cool visually. Is that we have this falling from above, in this first panel, but it's a little bit like left justified, like the dimensions of it are like this, right? It's like for the left side of the panel, and then if we follow it down, literally, it's like it falls into this other panel and across like Chad's back and shoulders there. So I don't know, just cool visual like connection between those two panels helps that action read very clearly, whereas otherwise I think it might kind of awkwardly flow. I think that's one of the big things that I appreciate with Kubo's manga is that Kubo's manga, well, especially Bleach, is a lot of times the action is very legible. I say a lot of the time, it's not always, but that's one of the issues that I have with a lot of other battle manga is that, ostensibly what you're here for is for these cool action scenes. And like while the anime can certainly do a lot of the heavy lifting, I think what makes a good battle manga, other than having really interesting, conflict, which we talked about that previous chapter at length, um, the other cool thing is the good thing is like whenever it's working is if it's instantly readable, if it's instantly legible, right? If you're able to follow the action between the panels very easily. Uh, so like I especially in later Naruto and like late Shippuden, again comparing to contemporaries, it was so hard to read the action, and it's the same way for me with later One Piece as well. Like just the paneling, what's actually happening in those action sequences can be a real nightmare to like organically follow through the page, along with the way that dialogue tends to be laid out. But I think Kubo more than either of those artists has a better sense of paneling and just kind of depicting action. So I'll point out the times where I think it works especially well, and I've already pointed out in the previous chapter where I think the action didn't read too well conversely. So, it's not like it always works. But, I think kind of contemporary to me doing this rereading, thinking about Chainsaw Man, which finished its first entire series or arc or whatever, part one, that has like really fantastic. The action reads very, very well in that too, which that reminds me a lot of Bleach for a lot of reasons, but in large part it's because a lot of the same sort of panel work and artistry is put into making the action legible, even though these kind of fantastic and over the top things are happening. So anyway, always will point that out, always will admire that. Um, and it's one of my favorite things about this manga, and probably why I am excited to kind of get into some of the later battles in this. But here we have, I love that we have Yuichi Shibata introduced, and he's talking to them, and it's unclear if it's like, okay, well, immediately we get the guy that's like, oh, it's talking like a person, because it's a parakeet, right? It can mimic human speech. So it's unclear, they're talking about it being cursed. It's clearly addressing them, and I like that Chad immediately is like, oh, well, now he's interested talking to this bird. But maybe it's just a bird. Maybe it doesn't have anything, worthwhile to say. Maybe it's just all playing it up. But this is Bleach. We know better. I like this. Another excuse for Kubo to dress up his characters in exciting ways. I love the kind of, I guess, dithering, basically using that dimpled out effect for the inside of Ishin's cloak back there. Ishin looking particularly pimpish. This is Chapter 7, so I don't know why he has a cool 8 on his glove, but there we are, right? Smoking a big fat cigar. I also like, this is maybe a call towards, talking about the horror show All Night Extraordinary, all that. Earlier on, Karen was talking about maybe doing a couple different things, like having like little side businesses or attractions. So, that's cute. I also like that this. Usually I'm not going to talk so much about these chapter covers. I think they're always pretty aesthetically appealing. But I think one cool thing about this is that it does remind us about Ichigo's family and about them. So like we're given this seed of like, oh yeah, his Ichigo's family, they're in the clinic, all that stuff. So whenever it comes up later, we're already kind of having them in mind. Neat use of like kind of a quick reminder that those characters exist. And as always, the cool place to hang out in school is on the rooftop. That's where all the cool kids hang out at the Japanese schools. I like here, we get reference to, so like, he's talking about the burn because he had that acid burn. He also got that head injury in the previous battle with acid wire. Assumably this is the next day after. So he's surprised, how well he's healed. And Rukia is saying like, well, yeah, it was easy. She's good at keto. She also attended something like some sort of Reaper school. So we're learning a little bit more. There's a lot of that seeded throughout these early chapters. I've been loving that. Like a lot of these little hints at kind of the Soul Reapers and Soul Society and kind of everything that goes into that. Obviously, Ruki is not telling him everything. It's kind of at a need to know basis, but it's cool that we're learning those little things bit by bit, and we'll get those piecemeal in these kind of organic conversations that they come up. So it's never like a big info dump. I appreciate that a lot. They could certainly spend like 5 pages just telling you about a place with like images of the place that's connected nothing to like this big monologue, but like that would be boring. I think this is more interesting. I think this more realistically gets at like how you would learn about a thing kind of through interacting with a person. And it also, leaves us a little bit more to speculate on and think about. Kubo does that a lot. He doesn't really like spending forever explaining something for the purposes of the viewer. So like a lot of stuff will be left intentionally vague so that you can like co-opt it and think about how it fits into the larger narrative. That you can be a part of the authorship of the fiction, right? That you can engage with it in that way. Obviously, there's definitive answers for a lot of this stuff. That's what the whole foreshadowing part of this video is about. But, it's cool that that stuff's there. It's cool that we're invited to kind of think about this world rather than it just everything being spelled out to us. I like that also, again, showing that Rukia is clearly from a place that's much different from Earth, that Soul Society is different, is that, whenever you ask about a school, she's like, well, it's something like that. And then despite her having great grades and like doing keto, right? She doesn't know how to even access this juice box. So that's kind of cute. It's a neat moment. You get a little bit of learning that. Love Me Zero shows up again. We get a little bit more of him actually being like a ladies' man kind of guy and thinking about things from a romantic angle. But I also think this does a good moment. This is like a good moment of reiterating that like Ichigo doesn't really have a romantic connection to Rukia. At the very least, he's like, yeah, you dummy. Does this look like love? And rather than like kind of wax about their relationship, instead the conversation quickly switches to like how much Ichigo doesn't really care about what other people think, right? We get this reiteration that this is naturally what his hair looks like. Assumably his mother had like a much lighter hair color, or maybe his grandparents did, and so even though his father's hair is black, like clearly him and his sister Yuzu have lighter hair than Karen and Ishin. But Ichigo doesn't really want to bend to other people's whims. Again, we get that constantly. His character is very individualistic, very much like I'm going to do my own thing, Like he does care what other people think, but he cares what people he cares about think, not what like strangers do. I like Mizuru, being all cute and Ichigo immediately calling him out on it. Yeah. Also the gag that he only goes for older women, but doesn't realize that Rukia is actually a much older woman. So I like the idea of him being some kind of MILF hunter or something. He just tries to use his like young good looks attract some older chicks. We get a little bit more of Keigo. In the anime especially, Keigo gets played like a lot for comedic effect. I find that he tends to be a little bit more chill in the manga, but again, another one of Ichigo's friends. I like that these, the guy friends that he has are like kind of an eclectic and interesting bunch of dorks, kind of the crowd that Ichigo's fallen in with. But I mean, he's kind of like a punk guy. He doesn't really do any of the sports, so here he is, right? But yeah, immediately Keigo is amazed by Rukia being up here on the roof, and then I love Mizuru like being like, oh yeah, no, Ichigo totally picked her up. So we get a lot of these personalities bouncing off of Ichigo, who's like certainly the straight man in this, and then he just, they're all kind of extremely bouncing off of him, where he's just kind of the personality for them to springboard off of with their silliness. Rukia doesn't really engage. She's too busy trying to figure out her whole deal there. I don't remember this other guy from the anime, but it's such a small beat. Oshima showing up to pick a fight with Ichigo here. And I immediately brings up his hair and that he feels like, Ichigo is trying to mock his style, right? So here we have I think this is intentionally, like Ichigo is much more naturally kind of this punk character. His hair is naturally this color. He's naturally this sort of outsider. Whereas we have this other character who's like very much performatively like an outsider punk guy, right? So this guy's got all the piercings. He's intentionally dyed his hair. He's really trying to like let everyone else know he's putting on these airs. Whereas I don't think Ichigo ever does that, right? Ichigo is very confidently just his own dude. He just happens to fall more into that punk persona because that's just who he is. Um, but yeah, gets kind of pissed off whenever other people kind of try to impress their will upon him. We'll get that a lot with Ichigo, right? That he just wants to do his own thing. That he doesn't like other people bullying him into other stuff. So he's willing to resolve this conflict with a fight. I love that Keigo tries to, he tries to talk him down, but Ichigo's like, "No, man, I'll just stomp that guy." Which probably true. Ichigo's a pretty good fighter. Um, yeah, this stronger gag. I also love the continued gag of Rukia. Like, even though there's this fight, Rukia is so not involved. Um, but yeah, we also get a little bit of that denial of like this anticipation as this other hand claps to his hand here, and he totally gets just thrown through the middle panel here. And yeah, we learn that Chad is continually a strong dude. Pretty short spoken, pretty concise in what he has to say, straightforward. But again, talking about repeating those cycles, we have this person that's, getting these repeated injuries, but kind of downplaying them, right? That it's not that big of a deal to him. And I love that the reaction here, Ichigo told Orihime, like, she needed to go to the hospital, right? And Ichigo's response to Chad is like, you got to be more careful. So, like, he still clearly cares about these people, right? I love the idea of Chad getting in a car wreck and carrying the other dude to the hospital right after getting hit by a car. Yeah, we get a little bit more of that Parakeet in here. Expert use of this shading. I think it helps to sell Ichigo's reaction more than just having the reaction there, especially with the stippling in the background and all of that. Clearly, Ichigo notices something important about the Parakeet, whereas everybody else seems not so aware, right? I don't know who's saying their nickname's Ewan McGregor because it's off screen. I wonder if that's the original Japanese. I wonder who insists that their nickname might be Ewan McGregor. Anyway, yeah, like this kind of, usually I don't like whenever art gets repeated kind of a lot as a joke, but I think it's effective here. Chad just being like, yesterday a guy gave it to me, even though like this is like very clearly like now we have this interest in this parakeet along with Ichigo, so we're aligned into the same space as him. We're interested in it. But Chad's ever elusive about it and immediately gets called out, of course, as maybe a bit of a gag. But yeah, Ruki is there to quickly remind both Ichigo and us that, like, yeah, there's something going on with the bird, but the bird itself seems harmless, right? Still, they should do Kanso. It's probably a soul that's attached to it. So here we get confirmation that souls can attach to, like, other living things, maybe possess things like a bird or an animal. So that's kind of neat. A bit of world building there. But yeah, here Ruki is coming to respect Ichigo a little bit more, realizing that, like, immediately whenever he realized that something was up, he felt like he needed to protect the people around him. She feels like maybe he's starting to understand a little bit more of what it means to wield this power that he has. That makes her happy. Makes me happy. Back to the clinic. Oop. Went forward whenever I did not mean to. Yeah. Remind us there's this yet another, a lot of car accidents early Bleach, you know? A lot of car wrecks. Some people around Karakura town, they just can't drive. I like Ishin trying to pull his weight with these other hospitals, right? Because they just run like a small family clinic. They're not running like a big deal hospital, you know. So he's literally got his daughters like helping out and wheeling gurneys and stuff, which is probably illegal. At least U.S. labor laws. I don't know how it is in Japan. But clearly Ichigo doesn't really get involved in this process. He cares, but you know, we get the sense that like he's maybe not used to seeing his father in such a frustrated situation, and neither are we. So far we've seen him be a pretty carefree guy, but clearly he takes his job seriously. He cares about these people's lives. Yeah, and here they bring in Chad. Chad's always got these great floral shirts. And we get the sense that Chad maybe, even though he's friends with Ichigo, like maybe they're not that close of friends yet. I don't know, but he did wander into this place. He is carrying the parakeet. He knows that this is somewhere he can get patched up. It's unclear if he was in that car wreck or not. I don't think they mentioned that. Yeah, they're just like, hey, we got a big one. So, but clearly we know that's a hollow wound. Other kind of important thing to note, other than getting I love that we get it's unclear. I like the ambiguity of so Karen looks over, she sees the parakeet, we get a zoom of the parakeet, we get a shocked expression from her, and then we get to see the wound on Chad. So we're immediately made to draw this connection between the parakeet and Chad having this wound, just in those panels. But the other thing is kind of, not realizing is she responding to the parakeet or is she responding to Chad, right? Because all the visual information that we have at the top of the page is just the parakeet stuff. So is she getting freaked out because of the parakeet? Because as we know, Karen can see spirits too, right? She just chooses not to believe in them, right? So she would be able to sense something from this parakeet, and she doesn't have Rukia to reassure her that no, it'll be okay, right? But it could also be her witnessing this horrible, still bleeding wound on Chad's back. Other big thing is that we get this tattoo. You know, kind of wild to think first of all, teenagers with tattoos not very common, but especially so in Japan, where there's a lot of kind of societal sort of trying to think of the right word. Anyway, there's a lot of society looks down upon people that have tattoos, because tattoos and criminals have been such a hand in hand thing. That's become a lot less of a cultural kind of thing here in America and the U.S. This is where I'm coming from the West, but yeah, in Japan, you've got to remember, people with tattoos aren't even allowed into some businesses. If you've got visible tattoos, um, comes up a lot with bathing places, like bathhouses and stuff, saunas, because more of your body is shown, right? But yeah, I don't know if you could cover them, and I still remember, I did swim team whenever I was in high school, and we had some guys that had tattoos, and they actually had to cover them for those events. But regardless, the idea is that Chad is presented with his tattoos, so he's got maybe if not some sort of nod to maybe some sort of criminal element, then at the very least there's certainly something. It's meant to establish something outsider about him, that he isn't your run of the mill teenager, right? But clearly, given how strong he is. So it's another. It's supposed to be. I think it's intentionally meant to kind of evoke a lot of feelings and kind of speculation, Whereas I think as a Western reader, it's really easy to kind of gloss over and be like, oh yeah, Chad has a tattoo, cool. you know? Whereas I think that would be more shocking, perhaps, for a Japanese viewer to see like, whoa, this 15-year-old guy, like what's he involved in, you know? So I think that's certainly that coupled with also this wound maybe makes you think like, oh man, what's Chad up to? And I love that Ichigo here. Here we're getting again the use of that scratch effect, but inside of the panel, maybe to like intonate like a very intense sort of sensation, and we'll see that certainly return as well as these like this hatch shading over the character that way. Um, that'll be used to kind of denote like a spiritual intensity moving forward. Um, and clearly, like we already know, like yeah, this is clearly a wound that probably is tied to a hollow, right? Chad's being pretty dodgy about it as well, but can't even get out of the door. And again, great little scene setting panel here as we cut to a little bit further ahead of time. And then, we've got the parakeet there. We've got Chad looking over to it. There's the window. And cut to outside the room, Ichigo talking to Rukia about what's going on, and that there's clearly a hollow involved, and then, bam, Chad is left out of the window. Clearly, Chad understands that there's something going on here that maybe he doesn't want to involve these other people in. And maybe he's getting a little wise to the fact that they're aware of it too. So yeah, that's it for analysis. A lot of neat stuff, kind of introducing us to some new mysteries, new characters, new things going on. We're learning a little bit more about Rukia and her background too. So all in all, lots of new things kind of being, like I said, very organically introduced in this chapter. I appreciate a lot, but a good quick start to what'll inevitably be an interesting arc dealing with our new character here, Chad. So, I'll jump into the foreshadowing now, making those larger connections. There's not a ton in this chapter, but regardless, I will be talking about a couple. And so, for those of you who don't want spoilers, this is your time to dip out. This is your time to completely scurry. For those who are interested, have already read the manga, or who are interested in how this connects to other chapters later on, yeah, this is the place for me to talk about that. So, getting into a little bit of that, here, yeah, we know this is the spirit that shows up later. It's kind of curious, talking about reincarnation, talking about like these spirits, talking about, I say reincarnation, but them showing up in Soul Society, because that does connect later. And I'll have maybe more to say about it later with the thing. But yeah, clearly, I think the idea is that the curse is because it's Shrieker, right? If I'm remembering correctly, is using this child's soul to kind of lure in people to kill. And this is yet to be another victim. Here, Chad, we get that shot of, I don't know if his bracelet's supposed to have his coin on it, or if it's, I think, more meant to be around his neck or what. I'm curious if we actually get a shot of that at all. Yeah, kind of right here. We just see from his abuelo. But already we get the sense that Chad is like this really powerful character, and obviously we kind of learn that he's a Fullbringer. I think that like it's been speculated on that like maybe his Fullbring should have been his skin, and like his heritage being like tied into that, right? And that giving him like extra durability, because it certainly feels like it fits within the manga at large. But regardless, I think just this show of protective strength already is hints at Chad already kind of having something supernatural going on before Ichigo's powers are imprinting upon him. Which I say all that. I have my own speculation about how the Higekyo might be affecting them, and it not necessarily being Ichigo's Reietsu so much as his willpower and the willpower of these others, and how being in proximity of Rukia and the incomplete Higekyo. Anyway, we'll talk about that whenever that gets brought up a little bit more, especially whenever the point gets brought up about Ichigo's powers affecting others. The Hogekyo is a plot element of like fulfilling people's desires, and like the stronger someone's desires are, the more capable it is of like in fulfilling those. I think that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind while rereading through Bleach. Obviously, the idea that an incomplete one could do that, especially while still within Rukia and that Gigai, is unclear. That's inconclusive. That's more speculation on my side. But we don't see ever again in the entire series Ichigo having so much Ryatsu that, or like anyone really having so much Ryatsu that the people around them develop new powers because their power flows off them. So, like, that's so isolated to this first arc and towards these people after interacting with Rukia. Because, I mean, these people have ostensibly, like, why didn't Keigo have powers, right? They've been friends, or Mizuru or any of the people that Ichigo hangs out with on the regular. Is instead very specific with these strong willed individuals that are drawn close to Ichigo after Rukia becomes involved. So, again, I'll talk about that way more whenever it comes up later, but I certainly think that that's present, or at least something worth considering. But even more so, the fact that Chad already has all the strength and power, uh, maybe a little bit of a nod to him being a bit of a supernatural entity himself, especially with the way that he keys into the Parakeet. Maybe not as immediately as Ichigo does, but after Yuichi speaks to him, he's able to very quickly recognize, hey, there's something important about this bird, right? I think it's less like, oh, Chad's into cute things, or he's interested in the bird because of whatever arbitrary reason. I think it's because he senses that spiritual power there. Same thing goes with him being able to block the beam and knowing that it's coming, right? The others notice as it's falling, but Chad gets into place to save both of them, right? So I think all of that speaks to Chad's having the beginnings of that perception. As we know, he's not even able to see hollows until, I believe, after the fight with Bulbous G. So, we'll get there when we get there. Anyway, love these outfits. Don't have much else to say there. Again, follow up on that healing Kido. Follow up on Rukia being especially great at Kido from Soul Reaper Academy. I think that holds true. I believe Renji is the one that always struggled with his Kido. I like that, of course, Rukia having like a real moment of pride, but again, the second that Ichigo starts to actually inquire a little bit more about Soul Society, she quickly changes the subject. And again, I think that's more her trying to kind of protect him and keep him in the dark about more things. Mizuro's great, love him. I think like the attitude that he has is fantastic. I love seeing little Kojima, especially whenever Aizen shows up later. It's wild to think of like the character, that is sort of maybe even in like I like that like he's sort of shipping Ichigo and Rukia, and Ichigo is so much like no. I understand why people see them as like more of a couple, especially people who watch the anime, because the anime kind of went out of its way to establish that there was more of a romantic connection there, perhaps. I think this is like, there's a lot of stuff the anime does that I think is anime only, that maybe influences the way that people think retroactively about the manga, which is interesting. But that's how it is. Talk about Keigo, comic relief Keigo. I love Keigo though. even outside of the role of comic relief. I think his lightheartedness makes for like a good foil to Ichigo. Like that we get these other punk elements. Again, talk about Ichigo really insistent about, not wanting to kind of buck to how other people want him to look or be. I also think, and now this might be, talking about like fourth level Bleach, nonsense, which if you're not familiar, and I think it's Spirits Are Forever With You, and one of the excerpts where Kubotai's talking about trusting Naruto with writing these novels and with the Bleach universe, is that basically he had talked to him, and that Narita had talked about Kenpachi, and specifically that Kubo felt that, like, he'd figured out how Kenpachi's power sort of worked before it was revealed a little bit more in the manga, before the Thousand Year Blood War, right? But at the time of publication for Spirits Are Forever With You, or while it was being written at least, and basically said that, like, he, more or less writes Bleach on these 4 different levels. And maybe this is another part of why I'm doing these videos, right? Is that to do this sort of like deeper level analysis of Bleach as a whole, and like these connections. But that he essentially has 4 levels to the sort of foreshadowing and the sort of elements that he expects the average reader to pick up on. And so I can't exactly remember the scale, but the idea is that, like, it's like the first level is like something that he generally wants everybody to pick up on, something that he wants the average reader to be aware of. The next being like 1 out of 100 people. So it's like, once people get exposed to these ideas online, it generally becomes accepted as like a hint or a piece that was like meant to hint at something later, but that not every person would be able to pick up on that, right? The third level being like, like 1 out of every 10,000 or whatever, like a much bigger percentage. The idea being like even vaguer sort of connections between things. And the 4th level being like things that he put in there that he didn't expect anyone to really pick up on ever, nor were they things that he ever expected that he would be able to follow up on, even in some places. So like different like little parallels. So speaking of 4th level moments, and like, interpreting Bleach on this 4th level, or reading it on like, in a way where it's maybe it feels like over analysis or too much speculation. The idea that Ichigo has this bleached hair and that maybe he's just faking it, right? But it's actually that color of hair. And that, like, they're like, why don't you just dye your hair black, and all of that, right? Or that the idea that maybe his natural hair color is black. Well, one, we know that black is associated with the Shinigami, right? It's the color of the Shuhakusho. So the idea being that he is not naturally black, that he's naturally this bleached color, like the white of the hollow mask, like the white of the Espada uniform, right? White being associated with hollows. Also white being associated with Quincy. Well, white and blue, but white with their uniforms. Obviously his hair's not white, it's, it's strawberry colored, right? But as far as it's drawn in the manga, it's just white as shorthand. So if we think about it in those terms of black and white, or black versus bleached, right? The idea that Ichigo has always been this Quincy, this hollow kind of focused character, and that he doesn't want to wear the black hair just to appease other people. Like, i.e., he doesn't want to become a Soul Reaper just to fulfill the duties of the Soul Reaper, right? And that his true identity ends up being this Quincy / hollow identity, which, as we come to learn, he doesn't really wield true Soul Reaper powers until the Thousand Year Blood War, right? That all along, Zangetsu's really been Quincy powers, and Hollow Ichigo has been, or White has been these hollow powers, which tie into Shinigami powers, but aren't explicitly that. And so him, whenever he's using Rukia's Shinigami powers, especially, it's just like having like a temp like color in his hair, right? It's not his true self. So that's interesting, right? And then if we continue to think about that hair, if we're getting really into some Bleach hair color fourth level reading, Ishin has black hair. Ishin is his Shinigami father, whereas Misaki has the lighter, kind of more auburn or strawberry hair, and she's his Quincy mother. So we see that heritage more clearly, and I think the same thing goes maybe with, interestingly enough, with Karen and being able to be maybe more perceptive with spirits. I don't know how much that kind of factors into that, as well as her attitude being more pessimistic and willing to kind of deny things, being maybe reflective even to a level of soul society. But certainly, I think this idea, right, of Ichigo not wanting to bend to others seeing him, like wanting him to have this hair. I think this initial encounter with this guy who's very performatively putting on this mask or this performance of having the bleached hair, but really he's not as tough as he's as Ichigo is, or even as Chad is, right? Because as it turns out, all these characters that are just kind of like the visored, right? Or whoever's kind of putting on that thing. Sure, maybe it allows them a little bit more power, but it's not as much as someone as blooded as Ichigo. I don't know. Anyway, maybe a bit too much speculation, but certainly I think something holds true there between his parents' hair colors and his, and the nature of his powers and what's truly at work there. I think that maybe not intentional from the beginning, maybe retroactively, kind of a more of a thing, but whew, damned if it's not there to an extent. Um, yeah, I think Chad's look maybe changes some of the heaviest throughout. He certainly goes from looking more surly to looking more burly. Um, boy just starts eating better, I guess. I don't know. Gets on a better diet. Maybe he's just a little more famished. But yeah, there we see his necklace there. Though it seems like it's a ring. I can't remember. I thought it was a coin that he got from his abuelo. But regardless, yeah, I think that's basically the other major connection that I have otherwise. Talking about these larger sort of parallels. Um, oh, there's one more kind of important thing. I guess too, if I want to really, there isn't much to here delve in with her kind of finding more respect with Ichigo, especially as he cares about safety for others as soon as he understands like the significance of souls and hollows and all of that. That being a soul reaper is maybe meant to be a protective role, at least in Rukia's eyes. But no, the big thing here, and I mean this is a maybe a bit of a small deal, is I think it's supposed to be implied, and I think it's clear maybe in the anime, not sure, but the idea is that I think he's calling um, Ishin. By the way, he's calling the Shida family hospital, right? Because they're the much larger hospital in town. So that whole like tell your boss is a request from Kurosaki and he'll find some beds real quick. I think that's literally what's being implied here. And he's pissed off at like these like flunkies who don't understand their relation or the importance of that request. Uh, yeah, yeah. So kind of cool like moment of like callback. We also get to see Ishin in a finally we see Ishin more in his element, like more kind of reacting, like not being the goofy dad or whatever, but having like a serious reaction and like trying to protect all these people. Notably, whenever we see him in this way, he's also wearing a big white coat because he's a captain, right? Anyway, little like visual connection things that I think are cute. Um, you know, is what it is. Uh, and then of course, not only is he wearing the white coat, but he has a mostly black outfit underneath. So it's I think visually reads as the captain's cloak and his Shuhakusho, but he's got the floral clothes because he's still a loving family man. He could be on Shunsui level of chill dude. Um, yeah, talked about Karen noticing the stuff about the bird. I think that's kind of neat. But otherwise, yeah, like I said, I don't think I have a lot of other connections. Certainly, so again, thinking about like, well, would Ishin recognize this as a hollow attack, or what? How much spiritual awareness does Ishin have right here? How much is he just performing the like duties of a doctor, right? Like, how aware is he of the entire situation? How aware is he of Ruki and Ichigo's shenanigans? Like, it's hard to put a pin in that. I certainly think to a degree, like he's because the idea is that he's just like a regular human dude right now, and like a gi guy similar to the one that is fashioned for Rukia, as far as I recall. Man, I really do need to reread Bleach, don't I? But I don't know if you can illuminate on that. If you can tell me where you think Ishin's coming from. If he's like genuinely not aware of like these other things, like the Ryatsu, the hollow Ryatsu, and all of that. And this being a hollow wound, or if he's just kind of reacting to it as a doctor might, but not letting up that he knows more. Both because narratively it's important that the reader doesn't understand Ishin to be, badass dad captain this early on, and then also for those other reasons. But yeah, that's it for this chapter. Don't have much else to say. Like I said, not a ton of speculation. Still enough to get this episode up to an hour. Like I said, I expected these to be more condensed, but I suppose this is introducing a new arc. So there is that. Anyway, thanks for joining me for this. This has been Karakura Gold and Bleach Revisited. As always, really loving Bleach, loving revisiting it. Really glad to have you along for the ride. If you stayed this long through the video, congratulations. And you know how to support me. You know how to engage with a video on YouTube. Do all that stuff. If you enjoy Bleach, you're in the right place. Talk in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to let me know right there. Otherwise, as always, spirits are forever with you. Stay gold.